Welcome to Football Chop Up. We're here today with Buck Gurley. We're gonna be able to talk freely because it's one of my good friends. But I want to give a shout out to Sports Club Florida and Athletes Advantage, who's powering the Football Chop Up segment.
Hand on the game, we are not playing the same. No, we not looking to change. Hand on the wheel, they think we lacking the drive. Boy, you should stay in your lane. Foot on the gas, I do not care if I crash, as long as I stick to the plan.
So we're gonna get straight to it. What's up, Buck? How you
What's
doing,
going
man?
on, man? Everything great. Thank you for having me.
Hey, man, my pleasure. Hey, man, been around you a long time, known you a long time. One of the reasons I wanted to have you first on our show is a lot of people don't know who you are. So walk me through who Buck Gurley is, like from a youngster at least to high school.
Oh man, since this is freely, man. So Buck Gurley from high school, man. Just a country boy, born and raised in Quincy, Florida. Love sports, man. Did everything from basketball, football, track and field, baseball, weightlifting. Ended up going to Gobby High School in Tallahassee, man, and from there just sprung along, man. All American my junior year, senior year, All American in basketball, All American in football, All American in track. Weightlifting was just something to do, right, to maintain, keep my strength right. And then baseball was just a little extra on top. But other than that, man, end up being USA Today, All American, Defensive Player of the Year in Florida, Defensive Lineman of the Year in Florida. Back then they called it Citrus Bowl Player of the Year. And then to top it off, man, Blue Chip All American, and then USA Today, first team, man. So that's me, man, all through high school, man. Just a guy that loved to play the sport, man.
See, what I find amazing is a lot of people around here don't even know that, because you're so humble. So that's why I'm going to get that out the way from the start.
Yeah.
Now we're going to transition. You did all that in high school. Then, and what was y'all record in high school? Did y'all win state or?
So didn't win state, man, but we did have a lot of winning seasons. For the most, we was always a 7-3, 6-4 type team. Probably lose the first round of playoffs, but the crazy part was we always had a lot of kids to go to school.
Right, right.
So no matter what, man, we just produced.
Well, so since you brought that up, we were talking before we got on. Quincy, just name some of the people in the Quincy, Tallahassee area that came up around the time you came up with.
So crazy, man. Out of Quincy, Florida, everybody should know Dexter Jackson. He played with the Tampa Bay Bucks, MVP of the Tampa Bay Bucks through the Super Bowl at that time. Leroy Smith, they all played at Florida State. Of course, you got Willie Simmons, who's now the head coach at FAMU. Some names from Tallahassee you may know is Will White, played at the University of Florida. Excellent receiver, man. Terrell Smith. Kevin Carter, defensive end, went to the University of Florida. Jamie Richardson, all those guys went to Gobby as well. So man, we produced a lot of talent coming out of that Panhandle area, man.
Yeah, that Big Bend area.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
let's take it. So you decided you were All American. I'm sure you had all the schools after you. What school did you choose and why?
So here's the funny thing: I grew up a Florida State guy, right? And a lot of people don't know that, man. I was born and bred Seminole. Um, when I say I had a whole list of teams coming at me, it was unbelievable because I took more visits than I should have taken. But I ended up picking the University of Florida, man, over Florida State. Now, don't get me wrong, Florida State was in Jacksonville, I probably would have went to Florida State.
Right.
But it's just the simple fact of, for, I guess, more personal reasons, I ended up picking the University of Florida because it was right down the street for those that wanted to come to the game. It was not too far away, 2 hours down the street, 3 hours down the street. They can end up coming to the game and get a visit.
Yeah. So when you were at Florida, you came in as a freshman. How did that transition go? Because we have a lot of kids that are going to be going off to school and went off to school. Tell us a little bit about your transition, how your freshman season went.
So my freshman year was a little bit different, right? I was wanting to play. And don't get me wrong, the first 3 games was marvelous, man. I ended up leading the team in sacks at that point. But I still hadn't developed at that time, from a strength standpoint. In order to play in the SEC, man, you got to be strong, and you got to play fast. And I think by me struggling a little bit with the size of everyone and the speed of everyone, I thought it was just only right that they redshirt me, and that's what they end up doing, man. So sometimes you got to make a smart decision for your future, right? So that's what I end up doing.
Okay. And how did y'all do that freshman year? 'Cause back in your day, y'all won a championship.
Oh, so here's the crazy thing. Now, my freshman year, man, my class of '96 was strong. But we ended up winning the national championship, man, with the University of Florida, SEC championship. Florida State beat us in the regular season. Then we
Okay.
came back and beat them in the national championship, man. So I think it was 51-20. So uh, just a pretty good year. We also won the SEC title that time too, man.
Yeah, I like how he said, I think it was 51-20. Like he really don't know the score, but that's okay.
I know I got some guys, man, that go to FSU. You know
Yeah,
how they
yeah, I
do.
know how you go. I know how you go. You don't want to put them out there like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So give us a little transition about your college time. What are the things that you remember the most? And is there anything that you would do different?
So I'll tell you this, man. Being a freshman, coming in, I wasn't as equipped as I should have been. No one told me about the extra time that I needed in the classroom. No one told me about the how football basically took up half of the day, and then I didn't know anything about the night classes and then study hall after that. So
Right.
my freshman year, man, it was just a laid back year for me, man. I didn't take it serious. I went in, and to be honest, I almost fell off the team.
Right.
You know what I mean? My GPA wasn't what it should have been, man. And it was just one of those things where I wanted to enjoy the experience, but I quickly found out, man, it wasn't all about me. So, man, they ended up putting me in almost on a academic probation, man. And I was like, nah, I can't do that because I want to play next year.
Right.
So I end up, man, picking my grades back up, doing what I need to do, make sure I maintain my academics to stay on the team. My sophomore year, man, came along pretty well. Did pretty good, man, playing wise. A lot of talent, man, was coming out at that time. You had Javon Curse, you had Alex Brown that was just coming in, man. And when I say we had a stacked team, man, we had a stacked team full of great players.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, man, I went from defensive end to defensive tackle quickly because one of our guys got hurt. So I had to go on the inside and play a little bit. Now, the crazy part was you in the SEC at 240 pounds, you know how that's going to look, right? So as a nose guard, man, I was getting my butt beat every game. Be honest with you, I was facing a lot of double teams, but when I got the one-on-ones, those are the things that I won, right? So I ended up being a pass rush demon at the nose guard, but when I get them double teams, man, it was something serious. So I took it upon myself, man, ended up gaining some weight my junior year, went back in the trenches, man, and next thing you know, I just started making a name for myself in the trenches, man. I think at that point, my junior year, we had one of the best defensive line in the nation, man, along with Georgia at that time. I think Georgia had like Big Hen and what was the other, Marcus Stroud, all those guys, man. So, it was always good to be compared to one another just to see who come out on top. And, it was myself, Gerard Warren, Alex Brown, I think it's Tron LaFavor. All those guys was great guys, man. And we ended up making a name for ourselves in the SEC and made a big run to push for another SEC title, man.
All right.
And then my senior year, oh my God, man. uh, Things got a little hectic, man. I'm trying to get myself ready for pro and everything, and I ended up getting hurt. So I had no idea what was going to happen, man. And I just took a leap of faith, man, and say, you know what? Whatever God has for me is for me. I mean, at this time, they know what I can do. I had no idea what I was going to do. I just know that I had a degree to fall back on. And from there, man, I took the shot, went to pro day that they had at the school, and New England called me after everything was said and done and said, hey, look, man, I know we couldn't take you where you wanted to go, man, but, I mean, we can't do anything about that. You're a free agent now. What you want to do? So, of course, I thought about it. Cold weather. I couldn't do it, boss. I could not do it. So, man, I ended up choosing the Dolphins because one of my coaches ended up going to the Dolphins, man. And I followed behind him, which ended up being a real good thing. But what was the bad thing, I ended up watching New England in the Super Bowl, playing in the in the Superdome, man. So it was crazy.
Is that the first one?
In New Orleans.
They played St. Louis.
Yeah, man. So I ended up watching that game in New Orleans. I'm sitting here like, man, that's crazy. That could have been me down there. But, God has his plans, man. And I landed that opportunity in Miami, man, which was a great experience for me.
Well, since you brought up Super Bowl, I know you got in the pros, but you lost out on that one. But then you tell us a little bit about the one you got with the Bucks.
Oh, man. So when I say a wonderful ride, man, people don't realize that Super Bowl experience, man, it is what it is. It is what it hyped up to be. We weren't even predicted to go, man. It was just a simple fact of when I was with the Bucks, man, we were such a brotherhood. We did a whole lot of stuff together, and nobody could tear that apart. It got to the point, man, where it was just us against the world. And that's the way we faced every game, man. And when I say Coach Gruden did a very wonderful job of managing the clock, man, we won TOP every game. And then for the defense to come out, I mean, fresh every time, seemed like, right? We were just balling,
Hold on
man.
real
So
quick. Explain TOP because some of these people might not know what
time
that
of
is. All
possession.
right, go ahead.
All right, so running the West Coast offense, man, there's a lot of motions involved, right? So time of possession is huge in the West Coast offense.
Right.
So Coach Gruden would always, pitch, hey, man, we got to make sure that we're winning time of possession. That means the offense stay on the field, defense is off the field.
Right.
Well, he did just that. Don't get me wrong now, Tony Dungy did a real good job of bringing that team together, right? But again, things happen, and we understand that the NFL is the NFL. So when Gruden came in, man, he brought in that West Coast offense, and everything kind of joined in the union then, and we'll move forward from there.
All right, so fast forward, you got your college championship, the NFL championship, and then you decide at some point your career is over. What made you decide to get into coaching?
Man, I'll be honest with you, God. I was going to give it all up, man. I was done. Football was done. I got to the point where I didn't want to see it no more. I didn't want to go to any games. I just wanted to chill out, fish, hunt, do all the simple stuff a country boy would do. But, man, once you say you don't want to do something, God has his unique way of putting stuff back in front of you. And the crazy part was I was just training guys at first, man, defensive line-wise, man. So, if anything, it was the guys that I was training, man. It was like, Coach, man, what are you thinking about coaching? And I was in Georgia at that time. And I was like, man, I don't want to coach. My whole thing is I'm getting you guys ready for either college or ready for your high school. Let's just focus on that. And mysteriously, man, God ended up saying, you know what? You're not just going to train no more. I'm going to make you an interim coach at a high school. So my first high school coaching opportunity came at Ocoee High School, man, which was a new program in Georgia. And it was marvelous, man, because we ended up being a real good program, solid program, man. Got guys, 6, 7 guys into Georgia Tech, man. And then from there, it kind of blossomed from there, man. Went back to my old alma mater, which is at Gabi. Got with my old coach. Kind of built my name for myself as a defensive line coach, man. And again, things kind of took off. We won. We had a couple of state runs. One opportunity to get at Cocoa and have a state title and fell, a point short in that. But after that, man, I ended up landing another head coaching opportunity at Lake Mary Prep, which was a private school. Never won. And I was like, man, here I go again. And then I finally realized I like being the underdog, right? It's just something about being the underdog. I like getting out there, making teams win or giving teams the opportunity to win that people would never think of winning. Right. So that's kind of me, man. I like to take the underdog team and kind of build the program up a little bit, man. So at Lake Mary Prep, man, at that time, Ray Lewis was taking his son there. And small school, man. We only had like 560 some kids at the total high school, probably 700 total for the school K through 12. But man, when I say we ran the run, it was unbelievable because we only had 19 guys. Right, and they thought that we couldn't do it. Everybody had vision that we couldn't do it, and I'll be dog, man. That little school, we end up with 3 district champions. We end up in the state finals. Out of the 7 years that I was there, 4 times. Would have had a run to go with Glaze Central, but we weren't ready for them. They was 63 deep, man, at their private school, and Fred T-Son was over there. So I already knew, man, it would have been like a hockey team. They would have been subbing kids in and out, man. So, man, I'm just happy for the things that was done over there, man. It was a small school again. People didn't really give it an opportunity, but we ended up having at least 14 guys, man, to go Division I, big school football.
That's big.
Especially out of a 1A school, man.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. So when you left there, did you continue coaching in the Orlando area? I
stopped a little bit, man. And then a friend of mine, Clint Johnson, called me. He was like, "Look, I'm over at Colonial, man. I would surely need your help if you can come out and help." So again, thought about it again, man. Did my research on Colonial, saw that they had struggled, man. They only had one or 2 games a year. But then that's that underdog thing again, right? So here it is. I think I'm Superman, and all of a sudden I jump into it with Clint. Now, man, Clint did some wonderful things, man. He actually brought attention to the program by 1, bringing Lou Holtz in, 2, just making it where guys that couldn't compete. And those guys started believing in each other, man. And I think last time Clint left there, man, we went 500. So that was pretty good for him. Then Coach Hodges came in, man, and kind of took over what Clint had. And then from there, man, you wouldn't believe it, but Colonial ended up being a 6-4 team, 6-4 team, 7-3 team, man, which was great. never had a winning season like that, but somehow we pulled it out, man. And if you don't know anything about that side of town, man, there's a lot of Hispanics on that side of
Correct.
town.
No
So,
doubt.
of course, to come over on the west side of town and play football versus kids that grew up playing football versus kids that are working, completely different,
No,
man.
no doubt, no doubt. So when you left Colonial, how did you get to Ocoee?
So, interesting situation. I was done one more time, but my brother, which is Rashard Gaines, that's my biological brother, married into Shepard's sister. So he ended up being my brother-in-law. I had no idea what was going on here. I just knew he go this coach at my house, and here's the introduction. I'm sitting here like, wait a minute, you coach at Ocoee? So then from there, man, Shep sat down with me for about a good hour and a half, man, just feeding information in my ear. But then there's that one thing that he said. He said, man, you know what? I don't just want to do the whole X's and O's, man. I want to build a family. Once you hit me with that family, it's all said and done from there. Because that's what I'm all about, man. It's all about a brotherhood and a family, man. At the end of the day.
And so when you came into Ocoee, what year was that?
That was in, oh man, I want to say 2020.
All right.
I've been there for 3.5 years now, 3 years.
Okay. And so give me a progression of, because I know, but some of the people might not know, Ocoee was not really known for winning. And then you came in 2020. Was that the year before COVID?
That was the year before COVID.
Okay.
Yeah. So Shep had a pretty good little thing going on, man. He just needed a few more coaches to come in and help him out with that program. What he had already established there, man, it was great. He had to buy in from the kids, right? Which is always hard to do. So as a coach, man, when he got to buy in from the kids, everything else is just a fill in. So I was that fill in guy, man. I would come in amped up, ready to go, bringing a lot of intensity. That's just who I am. And then from there, man, we end up putting a good, sound defense together,
Right.
which we knew they had an offense that could move the ball. Defensively, every now and then they struggled, but once you put a defense together, man, it's pretty much tough to defend. To basically defeat teams that are strong defensively. So that's what I pretty much did on that end, man.
So not give yourself credit. That's what I was hoping you'd get to. From 2020 to now, how many football players on your team defensively went to play on further levels of football?
Oh my God.
Because I know them, but the people
I know. Here we go. He know I'm humble. I don't like to say how many.
Very
Just
humble.
off the head, man, I could think about it, at least 8 defensively that have gone on to play Division I and doing pretty good. And actually, 2 of them starred as freshmen.
Yeah, I know. Just on the D line alone, you probably had at least 4 major prospects. In 4 years, like one every year. One every year, you had a different guy from. We'll start backwards from Calvin this year.
Yeah.
Big Jordan.
Yeah.
You had God bless the dead.
Aaron.
Aaron that passed away, Wilson. And then you had big
Jason
Jason
Williams. Yeah.
And I mean, so what's the odds that those guys get? Because I'm a big believer in God as well. I'm like, what's the odd that those guys got an opportunity to be coached by you?
Man, you know what?
And people would always talk about their techniques.
Yeah.
They really would.
It was crazy. And don't get me wrong, I know some of those guys went and had some outside training somewhere too. So I'll just give a shout out to Aaron Tate Johnson for what he's been doing, man. He's been doing a long time. I know him. He's a good friend of mine, man. We actually had a gym together, so that's how I know Aaron, man. But Jason, them, man. When I first met him, man, I'll start from the very beginning, working my way up, man. When I first met Jason, man, it was crazy because I thought he was a coach, man. He was a guy that was just all put together. Then realized he was only 14 years old, man. I'm like, wait a minute, man, you're 14 and only a junior? So when I walked in and first saw him, man, he was just well put together. And I think when I talked to Shep, he was like, man, you know what? This is a good defensive lineman, man, but he also plays guard. And I think his family wants him to play offensive line. By the time I got out and did some evaluation on the kid, man, and saw the kid at offensive line, how he was moving, I brought him over on defense. He did a couple of things for me. And I was like, oh, no, man, we definitely not going to put this guy on the offensive line, man, because he's definitely a defensive lineman. Right. So most of the tools, man, to be honest with you, he had already had at that time, man. I just put the how can I say this? I put the know football into him, right? Everything that he needed to know, right? The small stuff, how to step with this foot. Why do we step with this foot? Why do we use our hands? Why do we read keys? That's the only thing that I did for Aaron, man. I'm sorry for the Jason, man, which ended up being a super huge year for him, man. If you look at him his senior year, he was a dog.
No question.
Yeah, and that's because, man, he learned how to play the game. Fast forward that to Aaron Williams, man, Aaron Wilson. Oh man, just a animal, man. And I hate the fact that he had left us, but I understand kids are gonna leave for a better opportunity. I respect that, man. His parents had something out a little bit bigger for him, which he went and took advantage of. And then that situation happened, man, which is it was sad for us to hear all of that, man. But I don't want to dwell on that long because I get teary eyed over that, man. But he was a great kid.
Great
kid. Work hard, man, and definitely had the tools to be a D1 player, man. And would have been a D1 player easily. I think he was ranked number 2 in the nation.
Number 2 in the nation.
Yeah. So
great
defensively,
kid, great family. They
absolutely,
did a good job.
Absolutely. Fast forward past that, man. You had Jordan. Oh man. Now where do I start with Jordan, man? Jordan was a gem, a hidden gem.
Yeah,
He had a monster of an attitude, man, and he had a mold that was just unbelievable for a high school kid to have. Jordan just didn't have the knowledge, right? So he would struggle, just picking up whole football lingo,
Right.
understanding that this is the defense they're in. This is how we need to line up. Why do we line up so we can stop this on this certain play? Why do we read keys? Because the offensive lineman takes us to the ball. He was just a guy that would just get off the ball and be aggressive.
Right.
Man, this kid, when I say after every practice, we would spend hours on the board. This kid would spend hours
Right.
on the board learning the game of football. And once he learned the game of football, man, from his junior year on, man, he pretty much took the game and took it underneath his belt, man, and grew tremendously.
My first experience with him was watching him play against my son at Ocoee, and he single-handedly won that game. And I remember sitting there next to Tim Davis' son, and we were talking about his son Tyler's at Clemson, and we were talking about. He was like, "Man, who is that kid?" Like it was noticeable that he was obviously the best guy out there, and he's a great kid. Like you say, loves to work and can eat you out of house and home. That's for certain.
Oh my God.
He eat more than any kid I've ever seen in my life. Seriously. I mean, that's how I met him. He ate. I took him. Chef called me and said, "Hey man, can you take? I got to go out of town for a funeral. Can you take him to UCF?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Can he play?" He's like, "Yeah, he can play." So I took him out there. On the way home, I had him and Calvin, and I stopped at Popeyes, which is my favorite restaurant. They might need to give me a sponsorship, but I take him over there, man, and I say, "Well, ma'am, can I get myself a 2-piece, but I'm gonna get a 12-piece for these boys?" So he tapped me on the shoulder, "Coach." I say, "Hold on, man. Y'all want red bean?" "Yeah, we'll take that, but Coach." I said, "What?" He said, "I can eat a 12-piece by myself." I say, "For real?" I said, "Well, I tell you what, you got to show me." Sure enough, both the boys ate them 12 pieces to the point where, and now whenever they come in town, I take them to Popeyes just to eat. So that leads us to your boy Calvin. He also ate 12 pieces, by the way.
Please believe it, man. Calvin Smith, skinny. Oh man, had no idea that he would turn into the player that he would turn into, man. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I made Jordan eat him alive, man. I knew in order for him, because he had such a motor, man. I knew in order for him to be a good player, he needed to be physical, right? So I would put him against Jordan, man, every practice. And don't get me wrong, man. I thought Shep was gonna beat me up, man, because I'm like, dude, we about to fight up in this joint. If he sees that his son keep going home blooded,
Yeah.
and I mean, man, Calvin will go home from broken fingers to bloody nose, man, because Jordan is putting it on this dude.
Oh, no doubt.
And I pulled him to the side. I said, man, I'm gonna tell you now. In order for you to be a dog, you gonna understand you ain't gonna just sit here and take this whipping. At some point, you gonna have to man up. And I'll be dog, man. It took one play, one time for him to man up. And him and Jordan hit each other, man. And I was like, okay, you know what? We got something now. Now he's understanding how this game needs to be played from a defensive lineman, especially a defensive end standpoint, man. So Man, from there, it was lights out, man, because I put him on the strong side, man, and everybody was running counter to him, and he would see a pulling guard coming, and oh my God, he eating it up.
Right.
Right. The good thing about me, man, I don't like to set defensive linemen up to actually go in and just eat up an area. I want guys to make plays, man.
Right.
So we're not just going to go in there and wrong shoulder and end up out of the gaps or anything. We're going to man up. We go hit them in the mouth. We go get off the block. We go make plays. That's how you play football. So I came up that way. In college, they do it that way. In the league, if you want to make money, they ain't sure do it that way. So he had to learn quick, man. Look, use your hands. Be the most physical guy on the dang on field. And then from there, man, he made a name for himself, man. You ain't never seen a guy come out of this thing with 29 sacks, man. Legitimately.
No, not at all. And he had 6 against a kid that went to the University of Texas.
Absolutely.
And probably had another 3 or 4 he left on the table that night. So he's a bad boy for certain.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So now that we talked about that, now the real reason I got you here, you're the new head coach at Ocoee High School. We had a good run last year. You did a tremendous job. People don't know, you had injuries, you had all kind of stuff that happened. It seemed like every week, there was somebody getting hurt.
Absolutely.
I promise you, from day one, the very first game to the last game, it seemed like you had to work some miracles. But Coach Shep took an opportunity to go to Georgia, which I'll probably bring him on and we'll talk about the disparity between the economic system and everywhere else. But you decided to take the job at Ocoee. I know I fought for it as well. I commend Ocoee because he resigned and they made sure that everyone knew you were the coach. So just tell people about your coaching philosophy. They kind of heard it a little bit. And what's your thoughts on recruitment? Because I know I want to get a little bit of that in here as well.
Coaching philosophy, man, is real simple. I always say student athlete, right? So that means student first, academics first, right? So if you're going to play on this team, man, we're going to make sure that we're academically sound, right? If you know me, if you're playing on the defensive side, you know the only way you get on that field is having a 2.7. I don't care anything about a 2.0. I don't care anything about a 2.3. You're going to have a 2.7, man, because that gives you an opportunity, man, to get yourself into a college, right?
Before you go, I personally feel that they shouldn't let no kid play without a 2.7.
Oh, absolutely.
I firmly believe that because we not out here just this ain't rec like you in college and you just going to play rec ball. So I commend you for that because a lot of coaches don't care about that. So I'm very proud of that. But go ahead.
Oh, absolutely, man. Here's the thing, man. I think that every kid should have an opportunity to go somewhere. If it's not athletically, man, it could be academically.
Correct.
Right? And people don't understand that. And people need to understand that. There's 2 ways of having a scholarship, right? There's the student part of it, and then there's the athlete, right? You get to pick and choose.
Correct.
So we just got to make sure, man, that we stay on our P's and Q's as coaches, man, to let our parents understand that. That's huge. Another thing is, man, family, brotherhood, right? It's about building relationships, man, and keeping those relationships. People don't realize that I come from a single family home, man. It was just my mom at the age of 15. And I didn't have no brothers and sisters, man. So football team for me quickly became my brothers.
Right.
And to learn my brother's keeper in high school, I had no idea how much that would mean to me in the future.
Right.
So those relationships, man, are huge. And I think that when kids take that opportunity to love on one another, man, and no homo, but to understand that, we're in this together.
Correct.
It builds a unbelievable bond, man, that's going to be taken into memories and long lasting memories. So with that being said, man, that's what our team is going to be built off, man. Coach Shep did a great job of instilling that in our team, man, and that's something we believe in. And as you can see, man, everybody got everybody back at all times.
Oh no, I was definitely there. I was able to see it. I can attest to the fact that you guys care about your players more than not saying I can't say more than anyone else, but I can just say that you guys cared about your players. I can honestly say, there was countless times that yourself, Shep, whoever, y'all talked to my son, y'all got in his behind, kids will always allow you to coach them if they feel like you love them.
Absolutely.
And that's just the way it works. And so you guys did a tremendous job. That's why I was such an advocate, because we would have conversations, and that's what I love, the fact that you're not about just the football piece. And I think, and after hearing your story, this is why I tell everybody it's important to hear people's story. That comes from your freshman year at Florida. Like you said, you had to go ahead and tighten up in the academics.
Absolutely.
You had to do things a little differently. And so you want these guys, and we all are parents now. You don't want your kids to have to go through something. They're taking the test we've already taken. So we want you to pass with flying colors. So that's something that I wanted to make sure that I wanted to make sure that people got to know you, because you are a humble man. A little too humble. But you ain't gonna pump your own self up. One last thing before we go, and I would always tell anybody this: you got to tell people a little bit about your significant other. I'm a firm believer in that, because we as married men that do this stuff with kids, sometimes people don't get their flowers like they should.
Oh, absolutely.
And another thing that I love about your significant other, once you tell them, is it just makes sense. But go ahead.
So my wife, my beautiful, amazing wife, is Brandy Gurley. She is the principal of Orange County Virtual School. My wife is a gift. And when I mean a gift, she ain't just a gift to me. She's a gift to whatever team I'm coaching on, because if there's a kid that's looking to leave and go to school early, they got to communicate with her. The parents got to communicate with her.
I can testify. I can testify to that. And I will say this for those who don't know. My son left and went to school early, and I think y'all on vacation.
Yep.
Now y'all was in Vegas.
Yes, we were.
I'm sure they was partying hard. But excuse me. But what Brandy did was Colorado said, "Hey, we need this ASAP."
Absolutely.
And she stopped what she was doing and got me what I needed for him to go to college. So that's something I always tell everybody. It's amazing that if you are a parent, that's an asset to you. Like if your son is playing at Ocoee High School, which all parents should want their kids to go to school early for two purposes. Number one, it helps them get ready for college. Number two, it just gets them out your way so you can be an empty nester. But
there you go.
I'm enjoying empty nesting, by the way. But I just appreciate parents to understand what you have in this man, because of course we know immediately when Shep quit. It was the vultures out there trying to take every kid from Ocoee. They was out there,
man.
And especially we're in the Wild Wild West right now. So I want to make sure that we got this out for the parents. Is there anything else you want to tell the people about Buck Gurley, anything else before we shut this thing down?
Well, I'm gonna close Buck Gurley down, but what I am gonna tell you, man, is that we're serious about building tradition at Ocoee High School. Everything is on the up and up right now. Not just football, man, but all of our sports. We're now continuing to build that culture, and that's what it's going to be moving forward. To those that are within the district, within our zone, as I would say, come home. Come home.
And hey, I can't end on nothing better than that. Make sure you guys come home. So we appreciate your time. Thanks, boy.
Anytime, baby.
Before I forget, too, he's a member of the second second
No,
best organization behind
Be
Cap
number
Alpha
one.
Psi. He's
Be
on
number
Omega Psi
one.
Phi. So we'll see y'all later. Peace.